Okay. Good evening, Council. Good to see you all in person. I'll call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. and I'll hand it over to Deputy Mayor Drago Stefanik.
Thank you, Mayor. The Council of the Corporation Township of Hornepayne would like to begin respectfully acknowledging that the land on which we gather here today is the Treaty 9, 1905 to 1906 territory, traditional lands of indigenous peoples. As we work towards reconciliation, may we all live in respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3 is review and note any changes to the agenda. We do have one addition to the agenda. It comes into our closed session 3.1, addition of confidential item number 15.3, OCWA Contractual Review. And if I can get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that Council does hereby approve the agenda as amended. Those in favor? And that is carried. Item number 5 is declaration of pecuniary interest, declaration of conflict of interest. I do have one declaration so far. It's for myself, Mayor Cheryl Fort, for declaration agenda item 15.2. And it's a conflict with my employer. And we'll move on to adoptions of minutes. Item 6.1, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Council held on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024, as distributed. Any comments on those minutes? I'm not seeing any. I put those to a vote. Those in favor, and that is carried. Item 6.2 is our special meeting from last Wednesday. If I can get a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby adopt the minutes of the special meeting of Council held on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025, as distributed. Any comment on those minutes? There being none, I put it to a vote. Those in favor, and that is carried. Item number 7, we don't have anything. Item number 8, moving on to departmental reports. If I can have a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that Council does hereby acknowledge its receipt of the departmental reports provided at their regular meeting of Council held on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. And our first report is the Deputy Clerk. Jen, do you have anything you'd like to add to your report?
No, but I am good to take questions.
Okay, so I'll open the floor for questions from Council.
None.
None? Okay. Okay, I have a couple of questions. The Blue Box report was submitted. Can you just give us some highlights on that?
For sure. So the Blue Box report is it was a requirement for municipalities and First Nations communities that are not yet part of the Blue Box system, but would like to become or need to become starting in 2026. So the first step is to fill out that report. It was due by December 31st. And it provides the information of what our current garbage collection system is, and they'll use that information to see the best method to integrate the Blue Box system into that. So I've submitted that, and they will reach out sometime this year to start planning for when we become part of the Blue Box system.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Jen. And for the realtor, when are we going to have our next update on that?
Richard and I are hoping to have an update to you by the 1st February meeting. Okay. We are looking at some options moving forward, whether the best option is to repost or look into different methods of procurement, or you'll see in his report, RealTax also does offer a surplus property listing option. So we're going to come up with some information, and I will write a report to council outlining our research and what we recommend.
Okay, great. Oh, and the curling club. So they've decided to have a season?
Yes.
Okay, so that's good news. What's going on there?
The plant is up and running, and the ice is in the process of being put in place.
Okay.
And it's looking like beginning of February, they should be able to start their season.
Okay, have they mentioned if they're gonna have a bond spill or not?
I believe they still want to, but they haven't specified with me yet. That's just what I've heard.
Okay,
And I did advise as well that council had said that the rent-free is for the entirety of 2025.
Mhm.
So to advise in advance if they want to look into starting their season sooner this year.
okay, coming the fall, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
And that's something we can look into.
okay, right on. And no issues at all with the plant when it fired up and everything? We're all good so far?
Knock on wood.
Yes, knock hard. Okay, I'm definitely like to keep the updates on that. If even when it's up and ready to go, if you could just send out a short memo
Yeah,
to
for
council
sure.
to say, hey, they're on the ice and it's actually running and working, I'd love it. Go ahead, Councillor Belinda Kissmaker.
Can you give us some information on the Canada summer jobs? How many are we
Yeah.
applying for? Or
So I'd actually talked to Richard about this because normally we apply for, I believe, like 6 to 8. And historically, we are lucky if we get half of what we apply for. So this time, after talking to Richard and ensuring that we could budget for this, if for some reason we managed to get all of the ones we apply for, we applied for 9 for the public works summer laborers. I can't remember the exact term right now, but like grass cutting, maintenance. And we also applied for 3 for the summer recreation programming. We haven't applied for funding for that position before because it was new. And you can apply for multiple positions in this funding. So we also applied for that, hoping to at least get one.
Okay, right on. So 12 altogether.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Any further questions from council or discussion? Okay, thanks, Jen. And moving on to the acting treasurer's report. Richard, good to see you in Hornepayne virtually again, Richard.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Yeah, I've got it
So
mapped out. You can come to stay in April if you like. Why don't you? Come on up.
Well,
Or whenever.
we'll keep that in mind. I
Okay.
was kind of hoping to get up last summer, but didn't happen. And but I think we'll definitely plan a little trip this year. I'd like to have a look around and see the facilities that we're budgeting for and are being used up there. So yeah, I think looking forward to that, a trip up to see Hornepayne.
Great, great.
I might
And do you
talk to
have
some
anything
folks.
to add to? Sorry, do you have anything to add to your report?
A couple of things. Just
Okay.
wanted to point out about the tax arrears. That's the ministry properties is seems to be under control. I did get a response from assistant deputy minister, and he has given me a name, and I did get a response from her yesterday saying they are working on the final payments. That's for the 2 Ministry of Transportation properties. They were the 2 big ones, and that's what I was really focusing on first. I think they total about $190,000. So we should be seeing final payments over the next few weeks is the response on that. There's another 6 or 7 properties that are smaller dollar amounts. And I did talk to our new local rep from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I have, in this process, found out they're the ones that are responsible to assist us and make sure that these things get paid. Again, it's something new to me because the North, without being a single tier municipality as well, things are a little different than I'm used to. Anyway, this lady, the new representative, has given me a contact with the province. And so I have sent him an email just pointing out that we do have a bunch of properties that are in arrears and what does he need to assist in getting those cleaned up. So I think we'll see a big difference with our year-end audit this year as far as what is outstanding, because we did clean up a lot of things within the the tax arrears, and our allowance for doubtful accounts is going to shrink drastically. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to point out, budget in process. The capital financing is in process. That should be here any day now as well. Infrastructure Ontario to get that set up for the 2 large projects. And the last page in my report was to deal with tax sales, the tax sale process. So I have worked for many years with a company called Real Tax. They're located in Toronto. They handle most of Ontario's 444 municipalities. The firm that we are using now is a small firm. It may be a 1-person operation. I'm not sure, but Donna's done a pretty good job for the township. But you'll see in my report, the thing with Real Tax is they have a lot of expertise and specialists on their staff. And the other thing that I want to point out is the costs of going through a tax sale, which whichever firm you are using, the cost does not get paid by the average taxpayer. Those costs get added to that specific role. So, and the prices are about the same with Real Tax and the current provider. So those when we hand a file to a tax collector, Real Tax or our current provider, they will open a file, they do some searches, and they then register a tax sale registration on the deed, on the property, and they send us a bill for that first step. So what we do is we take that invoice, pay it, and put that cost right on the tax roll. So if the taxpayer or a lien holder, a bank mortgage company, wants to clear off those taxes, then we recover that in that process. So again, we're not out of money. And then the other thing, Real Tax have a system. They use a sister company called the Ontario Tax Sales to assist in selling properties. And I just found out that they're also now in the business of selling surplus property. So if a municipality has any property that is surplus to their needs, it's not a tax sale, it's owned by the municipality, then they will advertise it. And they have a number of clients that sign up and get notification on that. So that is one of the options for us to proceed with trying to sell some of the surplus property that the township has. As Deputy Clerk mentioned, we weren't successful with the request for proposal for a realtor. We only had one submission and it was disqualified. So what I've talked with the senior management team at the township, and I'm suggesting that maybe what we do, because we've already put out the request through an RFP process, if we know any realtors that are active in the area, I'd like to call them and ask them if they're interested and if they want to put in a proposal. Tell us about their firm and give us their rate, and then maybe we could evaluate them and try and choose one and bring it back to council. So I think once we've gone through the RFP process and it failed, I personally don't see any problem with doing that. And that would be my first choice, even over the Real Tax method, because this way we have an individual that is local that can look at those surplus properties and hopefully put a reasonable value on them and a for sale sign right on the property. So I just wanted to run that by council and see if there were any questions or concerns about proceeding in that method.
Go ahead, Jean.
I also did want to clarify, I went through the procurement bylaw and it does fall within a department head can do a procurement method where there's 2 informal quotations or more, 2 or more. at a maximum of 25,000, and to start up this process, it would be less than that. And then,
Okay, so we're within our
So it is.
bylaws. Okay, great. So let's just jump off on that one, council, just so we can wrap it up for Richard. Is everyone in agreement about going through and Richard going through that?
Yeah.
Reaching out to
Yes.
realtors, okay?
100%.
Richard, you got consensus here at council table to continue
All
with
right.
that, and you don't need a resolution or anything like that. Jen has
I don't-
clarified it's
I don't-
underneath the bylaw.
I don't think we do at this point because we'll bring back a recommendation, but I would ask anybody around the table that does know any realtors that are active in that area, if they could let Jennifer know, then we'll reach out to them and see if we can, get some information and then, summarize that and come back to council with a recommendation for a realtor. Perfect.
Okay, that sounds great. And just when we're reaching out to the realtors, could we also include in that email, let them know we have that business directory on their website and that they could add their name there if they like? Just because more and more people are looking for realtors and trying to buy property in our community. Okay, so at this time, council, I open up the floor for just general questions for Richard's report. Go ahead, Councillor
Yeah,
Stefanski.
thank you, Mayor. Excellent work on the Ministry of Properties arrears, Richard. Excellent work. I mean, that's going to be nice cash influx to the community. Yeah. Well done. I agree with what you just said about the property. But I think if that's not successful, I'd like to go to your recommendation 6 of 6 to real tax to move. If that's not successful, what are the council side? Is 6 months or give it a year, 12 months? If not, I think I like this one. It's a double whammy. It does tax arrears and also selling property. I think that could be on the second, as a second option. And I recommend that. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, just as Councillor Stefanik said, like, I have no problem, Richard. We don't have any active tax sales currently. You had cleaned those all up. Am I correct? So we have
There's,
some footing to-
I believe there's only one file that is still open. There's a couple of properties that we can't do anything with. There is one other file that is open that we've been advised we could now advertise for tax sale. And I've been holding off because I didn't want to start another process on one property when we may have a few others to deal with. So if council is in agreement, what I would like to do, and it's probably going to be the February meeting now, is bring a resolution authorizing the move to real tax, and then I'll get them started on any files that we have.
Okay, I think we have consensus around the table for that, Richard. Yeah,
Very
that
good.
works.
Okay.
And I am in agreement too. If we should have a minimum number of tax sales sitting there so that we're doing, you're putting all the work together, which is easier in the long run for staff and everyone in the background instead of doing it separately, maybe 3 or 4 different times for one property.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess part of that as well is confirming all of the properties that we do have. So I have the final list ready, and I will send that over to Hornepayne Holding Corporation to let their board have a look at that list of properties. And then hopefully in February, we're ready to move on with a realtor would be nice, and real tax to deal with any that of the arrears that are still open.
Okay, fantastic.
Good. Okay. Any other questions?
I do have a comment just underneath your bank loan, the auto extraction equipment. I just wanted to comment to council that I was at the fire department yesterday evening during their practice, and I actually got to see the 3 pieces of equipment. They're quite heavy. I was like, and then talking with the volunteers, they had indicated that when you're in that situation, you really don't notice the weight because your adrenaline's going, right? You're trying to save somebody. But it was interesting. I went through the batteries. They got 4 batteries, and the batteries are the best that you could have in the sense that they don't have to fully deplete. You can charge them at whatever stage. It doesn't wreck the battery. And they're looking at implementing some training for that. So they're not going to actively advertise this on Facebook or anything till all the training's done. But I was glad to see it, and I felt like there was some higher morale within the fire department.
Good.
So yeah. And the other one that I wanted to comment on is I want to echo Councillor Stakanek's comments on the work that was done on recovering the tax sale arrears from the ministry properties. So my question is, when these arrears come in, they would show under the 2024 budget, I would assume as some sort of surplus, or how are we going to,
No,
or do they actually come in as funds, or is it just paper money in the sense of putting?
Yeah, right now it's a receivable. So in the year that they were billed, and some of these we could go back a number of years, but for instance, if we sent out a property tax bill to the Ministry of Transportation, let's say for the year 2020, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, then the revenue is recorded that year in 2020, and the money isn't in the bank, it's sitting as a receivable. So now what we're trying to do is simply clean the receivables and get the money in the bank account. So the revenue is already there, recorded. So it isn't going to produce any surplus or any additional revenue for the municipality. It's just going to get the money in the bank so that we have the cash and hopefully then don't have to get into a borrowing situation in order to pay our day-to-day operating costs.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I follow that. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Richard, the other 6 smaller properties, or what you were saying, it was quite a bit smaller, but what does that amount to?
There's probably about, I'm going to just guess, around the $25,000 to $30,000 mark. So there's some, Ministry of what are they?
Municipal Affairs and Housing?
No, there's natural resources are most, but there's a couple of different ones in that list, but most of it is Ministry of Natural Resources, and some of them are current. There's only 1 year owing. Some of them there are a few years outstanding, but quite a bit smaller tax amounts, so they don't accumulate the way the one with the ministry was huge, because it was for their property where they have their garage and the storage for all of their sand and salt, big sand and salt dome and whatever. So the annual bill for that property was very large, and we hadn't been receiving any money. So it's quite a job to try and track that down. And I understand the treasurer had put a lot of effort into trying to track it down. And I think I was just lucky by contacting that one individual. It was the deputy minister. And, once I sent him off an email, things started to happen. So now that we know who to contact, though, we'll make sure we keep those names and numbers on file. So for future years, hopefully we can keep them on a current basis.
Yeah.
I was thinking short leash, but okay. Current basis sounds good.
Right.
Okay, any further questions for the treasurer? Okay, I'm not seeing any, Richard. Thank you for that. And we'll move on to the departmental report for the Public Works Manager. Dwayne, do you have anything to add to your report? Okay, so I open up the floor to council for questions for Mr. Goodrow.
None for me.
Not seeing any. I've got a few.
You didn't skate.
I wanted to say I'm glad to see that the pavilion washroom water and services are in. Are we planning to have an outdoor tap?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. What else was there? I think that was it, Dwayne. That was my one question. Oh, I guess the other question that I do have is just how is it going with working with the consultants with Third Ave project?
Lots of back and forth, just more information. We have a meeting next week,
I believe next week, yes.
60%. But anyway, it's coming on pretty well.
Okay, are we at a place where we know what the start date and that sort of thing yet? No? Okay, but it is on, timelines to start this summer, right? To have it done this summer?
Still in there, yes.
Yeah, okay, okay.
And I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am in communications with them as well, to work on the RFP for the construction service, or the construction for Third Ave.
Okay,
So we are working on that right now too.
okay, great. Do we have a timeline of when that's gonna go out, or they have a date that they'd like to have it out?
Not yet, we're in early discussion, but I'm hoping to have more information for you guys for the February meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no further questions for the Public Works Manager, we'll move on. And we have the Economic Development Officer, and is Stacy with us virtually, am I correct?
I believe so.
I am.
Okay, hello, Stacy. Do you have any additions to your report?
I have nothing to add, but I'll take questions if council has.
Okay, I open up the floor to council for questions for the Economic Development Officer.
Not for me.
Okay. I'm not seeing any questions. I know at our last meeting, we talked about a report coming to council. Is that coming in the February meeting?
Richard and I haven't discussed any of it yet, but we could work for that.
Okay, and that was on the
Accommodation
The-
tax.
yeah, accommodation tax, right? Okay. Go ahead, Jen.
Can I ask council if it can be on the second February meeting, just because Richard is off for a couple weeks
Okay,
or a week?
okay, you're good with that, Stacy? We'll move it to the second meeting of February?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, and I don't have any questions, so thank you. And with that, council, I'll put the the motion to a vote to acknowledge receipt of the reports. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, so now moving on to item 9, correspondence action items. And the first one is the Canada Day Material Storage Letter. Did you want to speak to this, Jen?
We received this correspondence, and I'm not exactly sure. I talked to the Public Works Manager. There's not a whole lot of space for storage, and after talking to the mayor in the agenda review, there is some further information that we do need to determine if and where we can store these items. So I don't have any resolution on the floor for that, just a discussion topic.
Okay, just to let council know, in our agenda meeting, just when we were going through, I had just mentioned that I would like to know the actual space, because it sounds like they are going to get more things in the future. If you read the letter, like they want to have space for that. And then it doesn't really specify whether it's heated or not heated. So that was my first take on it. It's like, let's find out exactly what the needs are, and not just the minimal, like what are the needs, because we have the arena project going. And if there's some place that we can store it, I would be in favor of finding someplace. Canada Day is not going away anytime soon. And I would like it to continue in our community and support the volunteers that do that for us. So that was where my questioning went with it. And I open up the floor to council for discussion. Councillor Stan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think she has a very valid concern. I think she's very gracious to volunteer time to organize, and now she's burdened, which it is burdened, by keeping the material supplies. I think it's unfair.
Mhm.
We have to look at that issue very seriously and find some spot. I know it's difficult, but it's onus is on us as council to find it.
Mhm.
I'm very serious about that.
Okay. Councillor Peter, go ahead.
Maybe Dwayne can answer this, but back when I was involved in hockey, there used to be 2 storage rooms behind the bleachers. Are they still there? Or they're used for something else, or they're not there anymore?
They're pretty much packed right now. Everything's full.
Everything's full, right?
It's just the sea cans. It's what I got right now. And we gotta move half that gym up this winter. So all be filled up back behind the bleachers.
Right.
We really don't have storage. I'm sorry, but we really don't have storage.
Okay, but I think we do need to find out exactly how much storage we're looking for. Find out, like, and work with Chantel, she would know, and that, like, I think all of council wants to help find the storage, and we have to create it if we don't have it. The other thing too that I noted is understanding the access. Like, when would they want access? Because if this is storage that, you know, say it is a CCAN in the end, that, you know, it can be cold storage. We can't be, you know, needing to get in there one day in December 15th, and it's just, it has to have an access point. Like, if are you gonna access it just at July 1st time, or are you going to add storage to it when you have deals or that something, so that the public works staff can know if they need to get into the container, that sort of thing. So
Especially in the winter, if you give
Yes.
what, a 4-week lead time or something would be more than enough, eh?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And they
Yeah.
would know ahead of time by.
yeah, go ahead, Dwayne.
We've kind of lined the sea cans up the way we did on purpose so we can get access to the front.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's just, because I don't want to hinder anybody, but if we spell that out at the beginning, people understand that there's other priorities going on, and that, you know, we can't just give you access in 24 hours notice sort of thing. But, yeah. And also with that, in the past, have we ever done a sort of like friendly agreement of how that works with our storage? Because I know we've had discussions at this table before about different organizations with their storage. And I would recommend that we do that, so that people know what our responsibilities are, that it's our responsibility, it's our storage container, and then the access, how much room is there, so it's not, you know, if you have half the CCAN, it's half the CCAN.
I'm not sure if we've had them in the past. I can look into that. But either way, we can definitely draft something for that.
Okay. Okay, any more further comments on that, or any pitfalls or anything that council can see? No? Okay, just just ensure that Chantel knows that we're looking for her future requirements. Like, it's one thing to store what she has now, but I would like I was happy to see that she's thinking long-term and wants to accumulate some more stuff, so, for that event. Okay, so moving on to 9.2, the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 194 Seniors Community Grant Program. Did you want to speak to this first, Jen, or do you want me to open it for council discussion?
I think they explained it pretty well. They are looking to apply for a grant, and they just like some support from council.
Yeah.
And I did draft. They provided a template for the letter, and I just drafted one on behalf of Mayor Fort as well, which can be edited as anyone wants. Just use the template.
Well, I told Jen in the meeting when I came to the gym, I was like, I appreciate this letter being done. Because it was, the only thing that I wanted to add was just that as a council, we want to partner with community organizations. I think that's part of our struggle that we've had in Hornepayne. Other communities have many different organizations that they can partner with. So if the Legion's thriving, we're all thriving. So that was the only thing, was that because we have very few, to really encourage them. So I was happy to see this. And if there's no further comments, I'll get a mover and a seconder for the motion. Moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Peter Kistemaker. Whereas the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 194 has proposed the Veterans and Seniors Wellness and Connection Initiative, a program designed to address the physical, social, and emotional needs of seniors and veterans within the Township of Hornepayne. And whereas the Township of Hornepayne recognizes the importance of supporting initiatives that foster community connections, improve health outcomes, and reduce social isolation among seniors while honoring and engaging local veterans. Therefore, be it resolved that council authorizes the mayor to provide a letter of support for the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 194's application to the Seniors Community Grant Program for the Veterans of Seniors Wellness and Connection Initiative. Any further comment on that? Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, so we'll add the final letter to our information package next meeting. Okay. Okay, moving on to 9.3 is the Studio 6 Extended Stay Hotel. Request for fitness facility program. So I'll get a mover and a seconder, and then we can have our discussion. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Whereas the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne supports initiatives that promote access to health and fitness resources within the community, and whereas the township utilizes Antara, I cannot say this,
Antares?
Antares as its fitness facility membership program to streamline financial transactions and ensure liability coverage. And whereas Studio 6 Extended Stay Hotel has expressed interest in purchasing gym memberships for their patrons under the same terms and pricing as individual memberships. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize staff to establish a fitness facility membership program with Studio 6 Extended Stay Hotel through Antares. Be it further resolved that staff are authorized to proceed with the implementation of this program in accordance with the township's established processes and protocols. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Councillor Drago-Stefanik, go ahead.
Great idea, win-win situation. I love it.
Okay,
Simple as that.
perfect. Councillor Peter Kistemaker?
Any extra thing that attracts people to the hotel is a good thing, and it's also gonna send the guest of the Studio 6 through our town and possibly frequenting the grocery store, the local confectionery, and maybe the LCBO.
Yes,
It's good.
yeah,
It's good all around.
yeah. Yeah, my comments were that I agreed with it. The one thing that kind of jumped it was that maybe we should, in the future, look at having some sort of program offering for our businesses, that they have a fob. It would have to be a different rate.
Yep.
And I like this too, is that my understanding is they'll have the fobs, but they'll purchase the day rate when they need to give it to a guest. And I like that idea for businesses possibly. If they wanted to, we could have some sort of agreement. It has to be fair though, right? Because we don't want people sharing their fobs. That's
Yep.
not what it's about. But anyway, I thought there was something in this that we could probably expand it to other businesses. So. Okay, with that, if there's no further comments, I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to publicly thank Shanna, our administrative assistant, because she did all the research for this. She reached out to Antares. She communicated with the hotel just to see exactly what they needed and what was possible and what could be done that wouldn't impact us liability wise or wouldn't be bonusing in any way. Like, this is completely done through Antares and we just give them the fobs essentially. But I just wanted to thank Shanna for that because she put in a lot of work.
Oh, thank you for that, Jen. Yeah. Nice shout out to staff. Okay. Okay, so I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, 9.4 is World Animal Protection Canada. It's a support resolution. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Whereas Ontario has more private, non-native, exotic wild animal keepers, roadside zoos, mobile zoos, wildlife exhibits, and other captive wildlife operations than any other province. And whereas the province of Ontario has yet not developed regulations to prohibit or restrict animal possession, breeding, or use of non-native exotic wild animals in captivity. And whereas non-native exotic wild animals can pose very serious human health and safety risks, and attacks causing human injury and death have occurred in the province. And whereas the keeping of non-native exotic wild animals can cause poor animal welfare and suffering and poses risks to local environments and wildlife. And whereas owners of non-native exotic wild animals can move from one community to another even after their operations have been shut down due to animal welfare or public health and safety concerns. And whereas municipalities have struggled often for months or years to deal with the non-native exotic wild animal issues and have experienced substantive regulatory, administrative, enforcement, and financial challenges. And whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks, and Treasurers of Ontario, and the Municipal Law Enforcement Association, Officers Association have indicated their support for World Animal Protection's campaign for provincial regulations of non-native exotic wild animals and roadside zoos in letters to the Ontario Solicitor General and Ontario Minister for Natural Resources and Forestry. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby petition the provincial government to implement provincial regulations to restrict the possession, breeding, or use of non-native exotic wild animals in licensed zoos in order to guarantee the fair and consistent application of policy throughout Ontario for the safety of Ontario's citizens and non-native exotic wild animal population. Be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Ontario Solicitor General, the Ontario Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, AMO, AMCTO, and MLEAO, with a copy to the World Animal Protection Canada. Any discussion on the support motion? Okay, there being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, 9.5 is Tulloch Engineering, the Hornepayne Arena Structural Report. And does anyone want to speak to this first? No? Okay, so it's on the floor for discussion. Councilor Drago-Stefanik.
Yeah, I looked at that, analyzed it quite thoroughly. There's a lot of work to be done. Very costly work.
Yeah.
Where some areas there are in dire straits. Not just we can't band-aid the problem. There's some serious, not only the aesthetics of the facilities, but the actual structural parts of the facilities. Beams, steel, concrete blocks. We'll have to certainly look at that. Start by when you do the capital budgeting and reserves. Because that could only last so long. We have a problem. And as few arenas across northeastern Ontario over the last 4 years were shut down because of it. The structural engineering failed. So some serious work to be done. And I'm sure everybody read it, so.
Okay,
We'll
thank you, Councilor.
We have to budget. I mean, we're shutting down one or the other.
Okay, Councilor Peter Kissmaker.
Just piggybacking off of what Councilor Stefanik said. It's bad, and that under no circumstances would I be in favor of any way or form of shutting that place down. But if something serious isn't done soon, you're right, we may have another Elliott Lake. So I'm willing to say that we may even have to prioritize our capital expenditures going forward so this gets done. Because it seems to me that we're out of time on the cosmetics. I really don't. I'm not too concerned about that, but structural, like Greg was saying, yes, it's something that cannot be overlooked.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilor. Any further comments? Okay, I do have a couple of questions for staff. So now that we've received this report, what are our next steps from staff's perspective? And I defer that to Dwayne or?
Especially number 3.
Okay, number 3. So, sorry, did you say quotes for number 3?
We need some repairs done like the one that done before winter. We did not have it done before winter.
Okay,
Recently. Yeah, some big dollars, roofing and all. There are monitoring the cracks in the walls, the gauges. Asking for monthly, we're doing it weekly.
okay, you're doing it weekly. Thank you for that. That's good to know. The one thing I do want about number 2 with the patching that was done to that other roof to extend its life. I know that was done under warranty, was it not? And is there anything that we can go back on that warranty on?
It's not in existence anymore.
It's not in existence. Perfect. Okay. And then with so from there, we're going to get the quotes for number 3, right? You said it was number 3 that you were gonna get the quotes for?
The worst one of the bunch.
Okay, so number 3.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Is there's, we've talked about piggyback off the Canada infrastructure loan. Is there any way we can piggyback this into that somehow? Is there a grant out there? Is there something available so that we can mitigate the financial gap that we have with this situation?
I'm not sure. I would defer to staff. I know that the NOHFC has funded other repairs for arenas, so we'd have to look into it.
Yeah, I would have to look into funding options. I could be wrong, I don't think that it can be added to our current grant because that's for like the addition. I don't think we'd be able to do any renovations on the existing arena, but I can look into grant options and see if there are any that ideally don't carry a huge municipal portion.
Okay, and but the other thing too is we have to do it, so we're getting a loan for the rest of that. So we definitely need the quotes, because we gotta include that. And then we wrap it into that one final loan we have at the end. Because we could possibly do that, so I guess we should be asking Richard to ensure whatever loan we get for these repairs can eventually be wrapped in, or Richard, if our, now I see your camera popped up, but a question for you. If we have the Infrastructure Ontario loan open, are we able to use that loan in the interim to fix these repairs as well?
That's a very good question. I would think we probably could, as long as we make that part of the, we were going to apply for a loan from them for the renovations of the expansion, I guess it is. So this is really some renovation, and I think what I want to do is look at the wording a little closer for the current grant that is approved, but I would think it could be included, and I will check with Infrastructure Ontario, because if nothing else, excuse me, if we can get the work done at the same time as this project, when we're quoting that out, it would make sense to try and incorporate these projects with the other contract, and then whatever is not funded, could end up being an Infrastructure Ontario long-term loan. But I'll look into that and try and report back at the next meeting.
Okay, great. And then, and ideally, if we can, I think in timeline wise, and I defer to the Public Works Manager maybe for this, is that it might be imperative to get those repairs done this year before we start the renovations next year. So we're dealing, like we're doing an addition on a solid building. Would that make sense, Dwayne?
Those repairs on the arena side.
Yeah, on the arena side, right?
Currently outside the addition, right?
It comes out the front, so it's part of the arena. Yeah.
That one roof you're talking about.
Yeah, but so that one roof that's over the foyer, that's not part of the new addition at all? That won't be touched?
According to so that's for definitely that's the one they're talking about. So it's through.
Okay, we might have to, but you're in consultation with the consultants now about that? Because I thought we were renovating our washrooms and our canteen.
Interior, yes.
The interior, okay, not the exterior, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess definitely we would have to have conversations with them, because we don't want to affect or increase any of the costs that are gonna happen in the interior after. Okay. Go ahead, Jen.
And I think I'll have to look specifically at the wording of the approved scope change to make sure that we're not going out of the scope.
Yeah.
Okay, for the funding, yeah, but our section that we're paying for, we can pay for other things. Can we not? Like, we don't have to follow that. Like, as long as we're doing everything that they wanted, that we're putting, can we not add? Like, if we're paying for it, can we not add?
Oh, like if it's coming out of our money, yes,
Yes,
just not
yeah.
if it's coming out of the funding money.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm more looking at, is like,
Mhm.
let's keep our funding money for what it's used
Okay,
for.
perfect.
But then if we have to add to it and then wrap the big loan at the end is going to have more that we approve, then we're good, right?
Yes, sorry, I misunderstood.
Sorry, was that is not clear? Sometimes I don't feel like I'm being very clear at all, okay? And just tell me straight up, be like, Cheryl, I don't understand a word you're saying, that's fine.
I'm gonna send the words coming in.
Yeah, like,
If it
go
looks
back to
like
bed,
me.
wake up, and let's start over. But, okay, so next steps is number 3, and then looking for the loan for that. And was there any other areas in the report, Dwayne, that you found you would like to highlight for council?
This is important.
5, let me just go back up. Okay, that was the one, there was pictures, right? That's the base blocks?
or in web sort of.
Yeah. Okay,
Just on this sort of
so are you gonna do them together?
probably.
Both of them done?
Once they
Okay,
get to work on it.
okay.
If we get a quote on all, as much as we can, full quote of everything at least.
Yeah, I'd be in agreement with that. And let's get it done. Like, let's,
Well, I think we have to.
yeah,
You got that right. Oh, yeah.
okay, so,
It's
we'll
awesome.
expect an update to this report. Which meeting?
Hard to say, the earliest one we can, but it depends on the quotes and how long they take to get.
Okay, well, we have managers' reports the first weekend of February, again,
Yeah,
or first meeting of February. Even just an update then of where we're at, if we can have that. Because ideally, if we're going to do the repairs this year, we would want to be RFPing, well, now really, but. So, okay. Any further questions on that report? Is council settled with the steps moving forward? Okay. Moving on, oh, sorry, I've got a motion of receipt, if I can get a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that council this year by acknowledge receipt of the Hornepayne Arena C&D Paul Curling Rink Structural Inspection Report as provided by Tulloch Engineering Limited. Those in favor? And that is carried. And Jen, can I just get a printed copy of that report?
Me too,
Okay.
please.
I was gonna say, does all of council want
I would,
copies?
yeah,
Yep.
please.
Yeah, printed copies there. Okay. And 9.6 is the landfill liability and PSAB reporting. And I'll move to open the floor for questions. Is there any comments from staff first?
It looks like Richard.
Oh, go ahead, Richard. Sorry, I didn't see. I was looking at the table, not up at the screen.
I'm just looking to see if anybody had any questions about that report. This we requested at the end of last year so that we can be compliant with PSAB for the audit of 2024. If you remember, we didn't have this number updated for last year's audit, and so that's why we now have it. And I can tell you it's a large number, the liability that is there. We do have an expansion of the landfill in progress. That's a bad way to word it. We are looking into an expansion of the landfill site. So we're hoping we do not get to closing and monitoring costs for a number of years. But this is something that is required for the audit report and the financial statement. So when we do get the audit report back for 2024, we will see this number in there, and we'll explain that at that point in time. Any questions?
So how will this report affect the final outcome of our audit? Because
It will create a liability. There is a liability on the financial statement now for
right.
the closure of the landfill site. This number is quite a bit higher. So what it is going to do, it's going to say, the liability is higher. We're going to have a higher expense for 2024, but it's not a cash expense. It's like an accrued liability. Okay. We're not looking at laying out any money, but it will have to be noted in the financial statements. This is where we get the difference between the accounting that we use to budget, collect money, versus what the audit report has to look like, and those differences. So I think it's better to leave it until we get the audit report, and I'll be able to explain the differences at that point in time.
Okay, and now we'll be in compliance. We'll have this
Yes.
number to put in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, did you have a question?
I was just wondering, when our time is up with the landfill site, is that saying we have to close it and then we're starting up again, or does it keep going? Like, you know how when you're talking about this, it talks about closures. I know it's just a number. What my thing is we're not closing, we're continuing, though, right? So it's just a thing, right?
Yeah.
We're
If I
expanding.
could respond to that, every landfill site has an approved area that you can put garbage in. And once you've filled that area, if you have not got any approved expansion, then you are required, the municipality is required to then close it and cover it and monitor it. So you would have to have monitoring wells to make sure there's no leachate from the landfill site contaminating any property. So that's where the closing costs and the monitoring costs come from. But in this situation, we're hoping that Hornepayne does not get to that, because we are in the process of trying to put in an expansion application, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yes.
But if that failed and we had to close this site, yes, it would then have to be covered, not used, and then you would have to make other arrangements for the disposal of garbage.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we weren't closing and opening again.
No.
No.
Not
You know?
grand opening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to verify how it was done. Thank you.
Peter, you
point.
want to go to a ribbon cutting? Is that what you want?
Balloons.
Bring garbage bags, okay?
Councillor Savannah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I thought, for a current landfill, we only had about 3 to 5 years maximum for maximum expansion. Am I right saying that? Maximum.
But the landfill,
Yes.
I would not say that one.
No, 2.5, we had said
So
last.
the cost is gonna be real very soon then.
Well, we're expanding them. We got permission already.
Yeah,
But you only have certain expansion. Once the expansion is done,
20 years?
25. Yeah, the expansion's 25. Our current landfill is at
Right,
about
3 to
2.5
5.
years.
I misunderstood you, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, so my question is on the current landfill, where, I know I asked this a couple meetings ago, where are we at with that? Are we still waiting for a report or,
That was in the ministry's hands as far as last time.
okay? Yeah, could we have an update on that for next council or our next regular meeting?
I'll just let staff know I've already pulled my file on landfill, and I was going to call the contractor tomorrow and ask them for an update so that I can budget for capital if that expansion was to happen in 2025, or when is it expected and what kind of costs are we looking at? And then we can at least get it on the books for capital in the future. So I'll follow through with that and let you know.
Okay, thank you for that, Richard. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any further comments on this report? Okay, there being none, I put this, I gotta get a mover and a seconder for acknowledge receipt. Moved by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker, second by Councillor Ted Cheneman. Be it resolved that council does hereby acknowledge receipt of the 2024 landfill liability and PSAB 3280 reporting Hornepayne landfill letter as provided by EXP. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to correspondence information only package. If I can get a mover and a seconder to open up the floor, moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby acknowledge receipt of the correspondence information only package attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. And we have a few items. I think, Jen, you wanted to speak to a couple?
I was just gonna bring up 10.2, the revised annual billing statement for 2025 for the OPP. I was also going to bring up 10.4, AMO just provided their pre-budget focus. 10.5, MFOA provided the 2024 federal fall economic statement. 10.6 is can't remember if it's survey, but the NDP reached out just asking if anyone wanted to provide input on the healthcare needs. So there's the link to provide comment if any members of council wish to do so. And 10.8. So the first attachment on there was actually sent by Councillor Stefanik, I believe. And it was the Timmins Today article about the fire protection grant. So Timmins got 49,000. And I included the second attachment, which was the Ontario Newsroom Fire Protection Grant recipients. We were also successful. And that's actually in our bylaws for this meeting. We received 8,260, I believe. And the funding is just based off of the amount of active fire stations in the community. So I just wanted to include that we also did that.
What's an active fire station? Does it have to look like this, or?
I think it's just like a station where there is a active fire crew that comes out of.
Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe can we include some of our areas where the fire volunteers practice?
No, I
No?
think it's just the actual how many there are that are like a home base.
Okay.
Richard,
Thank you
did
for
you
that, Jen.
I was just going to comment. There's a lot of municipalities in my area that are spread over many square miles, and they may have 2 or more active fire stations. So I think that's what they're talking about. So basically, a building that holds fire equipment, pumpers and whatever, rescue vans, and some municipalities have more than one.
Okay, great. So I do have a couple comments. I sent Richard an email today. NOMA had put together a draft document talking about the increasing pricing to the OPP. And this came about at the Northern Ontario Women's Association meeting today. And the NOW Association was able to get 2 delegations at Roma. One, just having a friendly discussion with Minister Rickford about the negative impacts that in Northern Ontario expansion would happen if they were to expand other areas into Northern Ontario, mostly parts of Muskoka. And then the second one was for the Ontario rise in cost policing. So I just sent Richard an email with a snippet of how they had put the information together for 2 communities in there and asked if we could have something similar to that, because the timelines are tight for this delegation, and if Hornepayne can be highlighted, I'd like us to be highlighted in it. And then also just further, I do still strongly think we're gonna have to follow up with AMO with a delegation. I don't think these costs are gonna go down. And a further note for the NOW Association, the view we're looking on is really the impacts that this is going to have to women in Northern Ontario. So, and how that plays in there. So, and we've talked about this many times at this table already with intimate partner violence on the rise in Algoma. And we definitely need policing, but does that all fall on communities and municipalities when it's a province-wide outcome of not only the pandemic, but now the outgoing effects of that? So anyway, that, and Richard, you saw my email to that. I wasn't sure at how complicated that would be to get that together, but.
Not complicated. I already have the numbers ready. I just need to respond. I will ask one question though. These 2 municipalities had one-time financial assistance expected in 2025 and 2024 regarding policing, I guess. So that's not something that Hornepayne has any revenue or assistance for, I don't believe.
Yeah, no, we haven't had any assistance.
Okay.
This was the first year that we, got a discount, but it was already discounted on the increased price.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still higher than what we paid the year before. I don't look at that as a discount. I don't know how,
For sure. And I just remind council, going to the conference and trying to get a delegation to talk to the minister when you're talking about OPP, and I think the other topic was fire department and the requirements for replacing equipment. I just wanted to point out, I was talking with a representative from the Ministry of Transportation when I was trying to collect those PILs, and his second job is he's a volunteer firefighter in a unorganized territory in Northern Ontario. And he was telling me they don't have the same restrictions. They actually go to municipalities that have firefighting equipment that is less than 20 or over 25 years old, but like our own, and very little mileage on it. And they buy them for next to nothing. And that's what they use for their firefighting in unorganized territories. So, if they have that, they don't have the restrictions. Why do organized municipalities have the restriction for insurance purposes that you have to have equipment less than 25 years old? Again, I just wanted to pass that point along. I thought it was very interesting in my conversation with him because he was wondering if we had anything for sale.
Yeah, interesting. And I have to just, on this, it made me think of the unorganized get funds for their airports too. And all of that comes out of our tax base.
Double
So.
standard.
Yeah. Okay, is there any other topics that we wanted to discuss
There was
in that? Yes,
one
go ahead,
paragraph.
Jen.
I just wanted to point out 10.12. I found that very handy. They listed all of the regulations and statutes in force as of January 1st, 2025. I have it printed in my office.
Oh. And I just wanted to highlight, I'm trying to make sure I get the right one it was in. I think it was in the AMO pre-consultation, 10.4, that had quite a few items on MSCs and the information on them and how they could be utilized. I think that's good material for council to review, and why we need to put that forward, that Hornepayne was forward thinking in doing that to the province. And the only other one I wanted to look at was 10.10. Sorry, I'm just getting down to it, council. Do you have the page number, Jen? I think this one. Sorry. I'm going too fast for my own fingers here.
194 to 196.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I just wanted to highlight that the amount of investment that's being put into passenger rail service, and that I did have a meeting at the beginning of December with Mayor Pilon and Mayor Seguin from Hearst, talking about their passenger rail, the extension into Hearst, possibly in the future. So when I see this and the amount of money that's being dumped into rail passenger service, I hope it comes all to fruition so that we can have better transportation systems for our residents. Just a note, one of our new residents in Hornepayne had to catch the VIA, and it's very difficult because you watch that VIA stream, and because I knew them and I could see, I said, well, I'll tell you, I'll keep it posted for you. It was amazing. It was on time that day, so it worked out, but I felt for the person. If you don't have any connections in Hornepayne, that hasn't been really an issue in the past because we've all had kind of connections with people that we could talk to, or we used to have the yard master that sat at the station that you go in and see. But now it kind of, when it starts getting 8-9 hours, people are sitting there waiting and they have no idea. So, but anyway, hopefully we see more passenger train service. Okay, with that, I put the acknowledge receipt to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, committee board updates. if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Drago Stefani, second by Councillor Peter Kistenmaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby acknowledge receipt of the board meeting minutes attached to the agenda of the regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. And the first ones are the library board minutes from the October 1st to the 10th. You have the ADSAP from September 26th and the Thunder Bay District Municipal League from the 21st. So I open up the floor for any questions or comments on those minutes. Okay, I don't have any. I went through my notes. There being none, I put those to a vote. Those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, item 11.2 is the Hornepayne Public Library Strategic Plan, and I think all of council got a paper copy of this. If we can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Sheneman, second by Councillor Belinda Kistenmaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby acknowledge receipt of the Hornepayne Public Library Strategic Plan 2025 to 2030. Any comments on the plan? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Councillor Sheneman.
I'm hoping everybody read it on council. This is an excellent document that was put together by Darnell and Stinson, Heather Patterson, and our consultant, Ms. Roberts. Tremendous amount of time and effort went into this. I would appreciate people read it on council. It's a roadmap for us, which we never had before. And it's going to come in very nicely once we have our new library.
Mhm.
But I gotta acknowledge my colleagues on the board did a superb job.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Yes, and it's always good to have people sitting on our committees and boards. Shout out to them. I do have a question for the library, maybe Councillor Stefani, if you could bring it back. When did we actually create the Hornepayne Public Library? Because when we have our 100th anniversary, and if we have the new facility, it would be good to acknowledge its life. And I don't think it would have been created in the same year that Hornepayne was, but
I truly don't know, but I could ask if our Darnell has any data or information. I will ask.
okay,
Next
great.
meeting.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Possibly we could look at our history books. I
It
don't-
might be in the memory lane, eh?
or either one or
I
two,
don't
possibly
remember
most likely
reading it.
one.
Yeah,
But I will look at that tonight as well at home because I have.
okay. Okay, any further comments on the strategic plan of the library? Okay, there being none, did I already get a mover and a seconder for that? I did, okay, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? There we go. Thank you for that, Jen. Okay, number 11.3 is surplus funds to the library. If I can get a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Drago, second by Councillor Peter Kistenmaker. Be it resolved that council does hereby agree to the request from the Hornepayne Public Library Board and does hereby authorize the acting treasurer to transfer the 2023 and 2024 surplus from the library to the library reserve account. Okay, discussion on the motion? Councillor Stefani.
Yeah, thank you. I've been on the board for 10 years, and this is going to be crucial for us, this reserve account. Once we again move to a new facility, we will be requiring new items, such as storage area, new furniture, because it's all dilapidated right now. I mean, you're not going to have a new facility and all your furniture is very old and not useful. Also, the storage for the books, the shelving, because that's old. Those shelving, I know for a fact, they're about 41 years of age. When you have thousands of pounds of books, after a while, the wood does lose its strength and was moved a few times. So we would have to look at something more, maybe more modern. This also does not move. Once we set the shelving, it's not on wheels. So if you want to move it, you got to take out 650 books and then move the shelf 3 feet over and you put the books back. So this reserve account is going to be wonderful for us. You don't have to budget extra. We already have it. So we'll have that in our reserves to use it wisely.
Okay, thank you for that,
Thank
Counselor.
you.
Jen, go ahead.
I had thought to myself that I was pretty sure that we had transferred library reserves to, or library surplus to a reserve account in the past. And I struggled to find the resolution because it ended up being that we did it at the same time as our municipal operating budget. So it just wasn't listed as library. But I did find it, and I did provide the resolution to all of council, to staff, and to the acting treasurer. So there is a history of, I could find several years. I just provided the most recent one, which was from July 12th, 2023. And that was to transfer the surplus from the 2022 budget for the operating budget and for the library reserve. So there is, because when we had spoke about it, either when it was brought up to me or when we talked, we weren't sure if this was past practice, but I did check and it is past practice.
Thank you for that, Jen. So a little bit of history on this. I kind of remembered after, I think it was in 2019 was the first time we transferred surplus. It wasn't something that was done in the past when I know I was the library chair, and we had discussed it because I think it should be, if it's allowable at the municipal level with the operating budget and that surplus, depending on what it is at, I think it is wise to allow the surplus, and I would go for the library and the fire department because it encourages them to spend wisely and they know that they can build up their reserve. My only concern is that transferring a surplus when we had such a huge deficit last year. So that's my only concern this year for the 2023. Not the 2023, the 2023, because we don't know if we have a 2024 surplus or not currently, right? It's the 2023 we're talking about. So that's my concern, and I know that we deal with this on a different level at another board that I sit on, is that this deals with bonusing for staff members. And there's a certain amount of surplus that we have to reach as an organization before any kind of bonuses get put out to the staff members. And that's to allow so that there's not budgeting to make the bonus. It's an actual surplus has been had. So that's my thoughts on it. We don't have a bylaw authorizing, I don't believe in the background authorizing the transfer of the surplus. Do you know, Richard or Jen?
Don't think there's any bylaw. I think it was done in the past by resolution, and it appears to me from the resolution that Jennifer provided, it was done when the auditor provided the year-end financial statements, and based on that is when the resolution was passed. Of course, it did not happen with the 2023 year end, and maybe part of that because of the deficit that year.
Okay. Do you know of any past practice where municipalities do transfer to surplus but they're in a deficit situation at their operating level?
Lots of municipalities will transfer a surplus to their reserve. I don't know of any situation where they have done it when they ended with a deficit. It becomes kind of difficult, and I guess that's my only hesitation in recommending this, because then, as you said, the fire department is another one that could definitely use any surplus transferred over into a reserve so that they could build it up and then use it for equipment and things needed. But then, you could go, once you start, then should Public Works not be entitled, if they don't spend their budget, to move their surplus over into a reserve as well? Maybe they should. Then you just end up with the situation where you maybe transferring a lot of money over and more than you ended up having as an overall surplus. So, Madam Mayor, your comment of maybe trying to set some kind of a parameter where, if the municipality has a surplus for the year over X amount or over the amount of those two surpluses, then they can be transferred. Maybe that's a way to try and handle that. And in the year when there is not an overall surplus, then maybe that's when the library or the fire department don't get their surplus transferred over. The disadvantage is I hate seeing any government organization, including municipal government, get to the end of the year and say, oh, I've got some money left in my budget, so I've got to go and spend it. Because if I don't spend it, they're going to take it away from it. They're going to cut my budget. Well, yeah, I would rather reward those that don't spend it by putting it into a reserve, but I hate seeing departments spend money because they have some left.
Right. Thank you for that, Richard. Jen, go ahead.
Could I request the council defer this item and we can reach out to nearby municipalities and see if they have experience with this and how they've handled it and do some more research?
I don't think we have to put that much time and effort into it, really. I think we have to make a decision on it, and we applaud the library. It's not that we don't want to, and it's just if we were to, Richard, grant the surplus of the library, which was, what was the library surplus for 2023?
I don't actually have it.
Okay, so we don't actually have that surplus. I guess I'll just throw a number. So if it was $10,000, what does that do? So we have to actually move that money into a reserve, and then it gets taken out of our general operating.
Yes, the 2023 amount was $16,251. The 2024 currently sits at 13,000. So a little over 13,000. So I can't come up with that number until everything is done and audited. But what we would have to do is actually record an expenditure in the library for in 2024, because we didn't do it in 23, which shows a transfer to reserves of that 16,251. Now, and I guess I'm gonna speak up for the fire department. If we're doing that for the library, should we be considering the fire department at the same time? Because the library currently has, before this, over $100,000 in a reserve account. The fire department has nothing. And we do want to start trying to build up some reserve within the fire department. So again, when it comes time and we're looking at it at buying new equipment and whatever, that and even the facility, there's some work needs to be done there. So I don't want to sound like I'm standing up for one against another. I'm just thinking, and I think council have already said that's another department that maybe we should be taking their surplus and moving it over. So what we could definitely do, if you pass the resolution, I think the way it stands, then we would in 2024 make an entry and charge an expense to the library of that 16,251 from 2023, and then once we know where things end up for 2024, then in 2025 we would make a similar entry. Is that sort of
okay? So, but for 2023, what would the impact of that be to us now if we backdate that?
It's an additional expense for the library of 16,251.
Right, but they initially had the surplus, so they would just balance out.
Yep, from one year to the next.
But that surplus did come back to our account.
It is in part, yes. Let's say it reduced the overall deficit from 2023.
Okay. So I open the floor for council discussion on this. So by transferring to reserve that amount, we are going to be increasing our deficit that we occurred.
Yes, we are.
And how does that affect like our FIR and different things like that?
It will only affect the 2024 reporting because the transaction will take place in 2024.
Okay, so we're gonna be increasing the deficit of 2024 by the 2023 amount and the 2024 amount then, if we have a deficit.
If we had a deficit, yes.
Councillor Shannon, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Richard, did you say the reserve surplus for the library now is sorry, maybe just tell me what that was again. I thought I said 104, or is that?
I think it's 101.
101?
Before we put anything additional in there, yes.
Okay. And I do understand that by not transferring the surplus, it may look like we're penalizing them for good stewardship.
Exactly.
But being in the position we're in financially on a whole as a township, I think we need to look seriously at not transferring it at least that year, and maybe looking at it in other years depending on our situation. But I know it does look like there have been good stewards, but perhaps the budget has had a little more leeway in it, a little more room than what it was needing in the first place. So I'd be cautious to when they have 100,000 in reserve, and I know it sounds like we may be penalizing them for good stewardship, but we need to look at the year at hand.
Go
That's
ahead,
my
Councillor.
opinion. Thank you.
I fully understand and would agree that in a deficit situation, I would agree with Ted, but also I'm going to stick to that's a slippery slope I don't really want to get on, because we will be, you can call it what I want, call it whatever you want. It is penalizing them for being good stewards of the money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We budgeted that amount and it was in our budget. And I hope that we're doing the same for the fire department. It's just I have a funny feeling the fire department doesn't have extra because they need a lot more than the library does
Mm-hmm.
with
Okay.
equipment and whatnot. Like, this is a really tough one.
Mm-hmm. So I guess at any time though, in the future, if we decided that yes, we would transfer the reserves this time, at any time in the future, we can stop and ensure that the library knows that, like, because we haven't had a deficit situation since this has started to occur.
Right.
And I'm quite pleased that the reserve is up over 100,000, because when I first sat in the seat, it was at 40.
Can I suggest that maybe I do like the idea that that was put forward. When you have an overall surplus, that's when the surplus from the library and fire department gets transferred to their reserves. If there is not sufficient surplus to make those transfers, or if, like in 2023, when there was a deficit, then nothing gets transferred. Yes, I agree, you are penalizing them for being good stewards of their budget and the funds, but at the same time, they can look forward to hopefully the next year. Maybe that encourages us all to budget well and manage well, so that we do end up with a surplus, and then they are able to get their funds transferred into a reserve. So my suggestion, I think, would be to say, we're sorry for 2023. We had a deficit, and we're hoping that didn't happen again in 2024. So we are hoping that your surplus in 2024 will get transferred to a reserve, and we will know that once we have finalized our reports for that year.
Thank you for that. Councillor Stefanik, go ahead.
Yeah, to comment on Councilman Schilleman. I sat at a table 10 years, and every piece of budget item, we did line by line budget, was prudent, Much discussion took place before. How many books are you gonna get? How many subscriptions? Every time, unequivocally. That's why we saved. Not because our budget was overblown or given way too much. I could speak with greatest authority for 10 years. We saved because that's the way our mandate was. All the people around, various board members over the last 10 years. The dilemma is, there's no question, we're in deficit financing. That's the dilemma. And yes, you could sugarcoat all you want. You still penalize the library board. You could put every terminology you want on that issue. The bottom line, you're penalizing a group of people that volunteered at that table, met once a month, took great care and concern, and saved the taxpayers by 100,000 plus, because we were prudent. I'm serious when I say that. Deficit, well then, I guess council will decide it. That's not the year to have the library board have the, because the 101,000 is very healthy number. Will help us out when we need it, when we have a new library, said it again. 16,000 will help the municipality overall. The bottom line is taxpayers' money, there's no question.
Councillor Pierre-Kissinger, go ahead.
And I totally agree with you, Drago, but to go off what you're saying, we are a community, and I know sometimes it's hard to see outside. Like I know being with my new job, we work for a big company, but I only see my little part, and I fight for my little part all the time. But at the end of the day, we are a community, and what affects the whole affects the individuals. So there's different ways to look at it. I'm really struggling with this one. But it's hard to justify when we're in a deficit because we are a community and the money is coming out. Because if the community doesn't do well as a whole, we got no library, we got no fire department, we got no recreation facilities. It's a lot to take in, and I just know if I was on the board, I would be fighting tooth and nail to keep that.
Yeah.
100%, but I'm not. I'm out here responsible for the overall thing.
Yeah.
And Ted has some very good legit points. It's really tough.
Councillor Shannon, go ahead.
And it can be reversed. I mean, if next year things turn around, the numbers look good, but then you go back to what you were doing. But in the meantime, I think we need to look at this prudently and say that we need to take that funding and put it back into the, use it as a surplus, but not into that. We need to put it back into our budget. But it isn't a forever situation. But I think no different than if you were sitting there and if it wasn't the library board and we were still looking at that, would you then, Councillor Stefanik, look and say, well, yeah, that makes sense. But you have a personal vested interest. And then I understand
And
that.
I should so.
Absolutely. But
Go ahead, Councillor.
I'm a realist, and harsh as may sound, I think, yeah, we'll have to forego that for reserves. Harsh as, and it hurts me to say that, but I think overall financial picture for our community, we're pretty healthy now financially for the future. And yeah, I think that's harsh as sounds for me, but I think that'll be best alternative.
For this time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think too in the future, I think I would like to move to a place where we do give the surplus of the fire department and the library board, those two entities, not the rest of the municipal budget, because all the other municipal budgets have paid staff. The fire department runs with volunteers, a volunteer group of people, and the library has a volunteer board. So that's a very different motivation at times for what they do, why they do what they do. And so that's the way I categorize it in my own mind, whether that's right or wrong, but that's the way I look at it. So the rest of administrative staff, public works and that, yes, we follow our budgets. I do not feel like a surplus out of those because they have the opportunity to put together their departmental work plans. They're working off reports like we received tonight that state like we have to spend this money. So that it's a very different dynamic than when we're dealing with a volunteer fire department and the public, Hornepayne Public Library, who deals with a volunteer board. But I would like to have some sort of policy moving into the future of what, because if it wasn't, it was a $300,000 something deficit we ended up dealing with in the end, Richard. Okay, if we were talking about $100,000 deficit and we could weather that, I would be more apt not to. I would just be let's do our transfers to the reserves. So that's where I'm at, is there has to be a tipping point where either that if on a whole we're not doing as well and as healthy as we should be, what is that point? You know, when I look at the health of our community, you know, to have a common cold, I would equate that, and people might get mad at me in the community for saying this, but say a common cold at the municipal level is a $50,000 deficit. It's a common cold, we're gonna get over it. It was a hiccup, something happened. I wouldn't want to be penalizing the two boards in that. 2023 was a very different year. There was a massive deficit. We weren't completely aware of what was going on, and we have been rebuilding the work with our staff and everything to understand where we're at, and Richard has helped us along as well in that, and the other staff members that aren't here tonight as well that have helped us along to understand that situation. So although I would love to be able to transfer the reserves to the library, and I do want to incorporate the fire department in the future when there are surpluses, I would like us to come to a number so that we don't have this discussion again, that we just know what staff knows what to do. And but I do want to applaud the library for the work that they have done, because I remember back in 2012 and 2013 when someone had stated it to me that the library budget was less than 1% of the entire municipal budget, and it got the biggest cuts when they lost their library at the mall, and in 2010 up to 2012. And we had to fight for that library. So, and I just want the library and the board to know it has nothing to do with the work that they've done. It really was just an awful, tremendously awful year for the municipality. So that's where I'm at. And moving forward then with that, if council does want to put into a policy of using surplus for the fire department and the library, is that something council would like to see in policy moving forward?
Makes it easy to interpret as we do for the future members of council and all that.
Okay. Richard, what would be the best policy to put that into? Would that be our budget and controls financial policy? Oh, sorry, just.
Yeah, I guess it does sound like that would be the best place to put it. Let me have a look at that and see. Jenny, I will try and have a look at that and draft something for, well, I guess there's no big hurry. Probably we'll push that off to the end of February because, then hopefully we've got the policy established so that that policy will then deal with the results of 2024. Okay.
Okay, yeah, there's no rush for like this year in the set or right now. So Jen, did you have something to say? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, it also might be like its own policy that other places have, so I can look into that to see if any other places have a similar policy or how they incorporate that into theirs.
For their surplus funds?
If they have like specific for reserves.
Yeah, we'll work with Richard on that and find out. Yeah. Well, you were telling me about that new web portal that you found.
Yeah, I love it. The AMCTO municipal Google search.
Yeah.
You can search all the municipal websites in Ontario through it. So it's just to put in any keywords or policies or anything. You can decide, you can specify if you want small or large or north.
Good, okay. Okay, any further discussion on that, council? There being none, we'll move on then. And what do we do with this resolution? Defeat it. Defeat it? Okay. Did I actually get a mover and a seconder? Did
You
we
did,
put it on the
yes.
floor? Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
It was moved by Drago, seconded by Peter.
Okay, I'm wondering if we can, I don't wanna just defeat it, I'd like to add that can we add to it about what we plan to do in the future? About creating a policy for surplus? Go ahead, Councilor.
Can we
Spann.
defer it, Mayor?
Yeah,
Can we
that-
defer it?
Yeah, I think that's most clean cut.
That was
My
my
eyes.
suggestion too.
Okay, so instead of the motion that I read out, it's a motion to defer 11.3, and we'll come back with a.
Yeah.
And that might be at a meeting in March or what have you, right?
And I'll
Okay.
advise the library of this discussion tonight,
Mhm.
and that it'll be brought back with an official motion and a policy.
Okay, great, thank you for that. Okay, so moving on, and I just take a vote on that deferral, everyone's in favor? And that is carried, okay. 11.4, council committee updates, moving around the table. Councilor Sheneman.
At the hospital, we were able to get some money from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund to be able to get a 1-year contract for a media relations and public relations and position, marketing coordinator. So that job is just posted, and so they're anticipating, Linda said she's actually anticipating quite a few responses, so that would be good. So
Oh, good,
so that was good. Other than that, that's all for this time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
thank you. Can that job be hybrid, or are they looking to have someone in the community, or?
In the community.
In the
yes,
community?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's really what they're looking for.
Okay, great. Councilor Peter Kissmaker.
Nothing at this moment.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilor Belinda Kissmaker.
Not right now.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Drago Stefanik.
Keeping on the library theme. Never let it go. We met on January 7th. We had a productive meeting, and we're gonna have a meeting either January 23rd or 24th. Our members, honorable members didn't respond yet, so that'll be a meeting. I further did some research on MAT tax, because I have great interest in
Yeah,
municipal accommodation. Right now in northeastern Ontario, most MAT tax is at 4%. City of Timmins is looking to increase there at 6%.
Mm.
Just to give you some numbers, I did a better research. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilor. Okay, mayor updates. First of all, I want to thank council, and I hope everyone had a great Christmas and holiday time. This is our first actual official regular meeting, and we can state that. And I hope everyone has a great 2025. I was able to meet with, we had an ADSAB meeting last week, and we are going to see some increase. They don't know what it's at yet. Our budget meeting is scheduled for the beginning of February. It usually is done at this time of year, and the CAO is hopeful that we'll be on track this fall. And I had a Northern Ontario Women's Association meeting today, and we are moving forward with incorporation under that name. So hopefully we'll be able to have more delegations in the future and bring light more further issues that we have in Northern Ontario, especially surrounding the disparity that women have in living in Northern Ontario. And I want to just say to council, I'm really hopeful. I can't share all the reasons why I'm hopeful, but I had some conversations with some of the home builders in the area, and I've heard that there are some purchases being made for properties in our community, and that we may see new builds in our community. And that's about all I can share on that, as those matters are personal and confidential outside of my realm. But I am hopeful for our year, and even for the hotel and people staying there and coming into our community. I'm hopeful that next winter, I know people might cringe at me saying this, but I hope we get a whole ton of snow real early and long.
I
And then
cringe.
you cringe. Well, you can go down south if you like.
I'm going November.
But I would like to see the snowmobilers coming back at the same or more levels than what we had in the past.
Yeah.
So, yes, so on that whole note, I just, it feels good to be hopeful for the future than what, after enduring the pandemic and the challenges that we saw, and then our audit in September, I was very disparaging, but I am hopeful for our future. So with that, that's it, and I don't have that many meetings. As you know, I took on a new position, so I have splintered down my calendar, but I do have Good Roads, and I do want to announce too that Good Roads allows the president to have a companion, as usually it's their spouse or their partner, and as you know, I don't have one. And I had asked Good Roads if it would be acceptable for me to bring a staff member from our municipality last year, and they agreed. And so they've agreed to pay all of Jen's expenses to this year's conference, next year's conference, and the AMO conference. So that's great, because I, as president, I get to go to one provincial conference and one national conference. As I had mentioned last meeting, I'm still looking at some sort of investors conference for this year. So anyway, that's a bonus to our community, because that's probably about $15,000 worth of travel and conference fees that our community gets to go by. Go ahead, Jen.
I will say, for one, thank you.
No problem.
And two, I'm really glad, because these are the two conferences that we have most of our delegations. And I always find it very rewarding when I get to actually, because I prepare the delegation packages, I find it rewarding when I actually get to be in them and see kind of how they're received. So
thank you. And I have to say to Jen, there's a lot of background work that Jen has agreed to, because as president, you host the hospitality suite. There's all sorts of different work, and I just didn't want to be doing that alone as well. And so hence why she's coming this year to learn as we watch the outgoing president. And then next year, hopefully, we'll be an A game. But yeah. So with that, is there any other further updates or questions for anyone? Okay, well, we'll move on then to 12, new and other business. And if I can get a mover and a seconder, and we'll put the motion on the floor. Moved by Councillor Drago-Stefanik, second by Councillor Ted Shinneman. Whereas the Township of Hornepayne is responsible for ensuring that financial reconciliations and working papers are prepared for the year-end audit for the 2024 fiscal year, and whereas the Hornepayne Housing Corporation, HHC, has relevant financial information necessary to complete these reconciliation and working papers, and whereas the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne recognizes that utilizing the acting treasurer to prepare the required reconciliation and working papers is a cost-effective alternative to engaging the auditors for this service. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize the Hornepayne Housing Corporation, HHC Administrator, to provide the acting treasurer with all relevant financial information, including but not limited to financial record statements and supporting documents necessary for the preparation of the 2024 year-end audit reconciliation and working papers. Any discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Jen.
I just wanted to mention this was included in Richard's report. It just saves the township some money rather than having the auditors do it.
Yeah, I think too that we should actually give formal notice to the HHC that we are changing our auditors. Did we actually do that? Because they follow suit with us.
That is true.
Yeah,
No,
we do have an HHC meeting coming.
I can include that in the letter that I sent with this information.
Yeah, that would be great. And yeah, because it's on Thursday, right? The
21st,
21st would be Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
Okay, so okay. I was just trying to think if we can get it out to our agenda package, but yeah, that's fine. I can just give a verbal update that it's coming. Okay, any further discussion on that motion? There being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, Township of Hornepayne 2024 Asset Management Plan. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ted Shinneman, second by Councillor Peter Kistemaker. Whereas the asset management planning for municipal infrastructure regulation, OREG 588-17, as amended by OREG 193-21, came into force on January 1st, 2018. And whereas Ontario Regulation 588-17 was implemented to help address the issue of failing municipal infrastructure assets and act as a guide in the development of municipal asset management plans. And whereas the goal of the asset management is to maximize the value of municipal assets while balancing risk, performance, and cost. And whereas the 2024 Township of Hornepayne Asset Management Plan was prepared by the Asset Management Coordinator in accordance with Regulation 58817. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby receive and endorse the 2024 Wawa Asset Management Plan prepared by the Asset Management Coordinator. Any discussion on that motion? There being none, oh, go ahead, Jen, did you have a
I
question?
did update it. It did say Wawa before because I did steal their wording.
Oh, did you?
but it
'Cause
does
I'm
say
reading off of this.
Hornepayne.
Oh, does it? Oh.
It has been updated. I was like, uh-oh.
Oh, no, that's okay. Sorry, I'm reading off my draft agenda, so that's my bad.
Their coordinator prepares theirs and ours. So I was like,
Okay, so 2024 Hornepayne Asset Management Plan? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we're not gonna go off of Wawa. Sorry about that, council. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. And I gotta get to my new agenda here so I don't miss things. Okay, next thing is the CIBC loan. Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Counselor Ted Sheneman, second by Counselor Peter Kistemaker. Whereas through resolution 2024-399, council authorized staff to obtain long-term loans to finance the unfunded costs of the new ball field and the fire department's new self-contained breathing apparatus. And whereas the fire department also purchased auto extraction equipment as approved in the 2024 municipal budget. Whereas CIBC has provided a loan offer for the auto extraction equipment with the following terms. Loan $57,000, repayment 5 years, interest rate fixed at 5%, renewable after 5 years, repayment method, monthly blended payments of principal and interest. Whereas the acting treasurer has presented estimated interest calculations and repayment schedules and amounts in Schedule A, recommending the fixed rate loan option. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby authorize staff to proceed with establishing a fixed rate capital loan with CIBC in the amount of $57,000 at an interest rate of 5%, with a rate subject to renewal after 5 years. Any discussion on that motion? There being none, I put that to a vote. Those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, bylaws. We have the borrowing bylaw. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Counselor Drago-Spanik, second by Counselor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2105, being a bylaw to authorize the borrowing of money to meet current expenditures of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne, the municipality for the year of 2025, be hereby read a first and second time and be considered read a third time and finally passed. Was there an update that you wanted to give to this, Jen?
yes.
Yeah.
And Richard, please feel free to chime in if I'm not explaining it correctly. But this year's borrowing bylaw is a little bit different than previous years because in order to get the loans from CIBC, it needed to be approved in a borrowing bylaw as well. So normally it's just for operational needs, but this one also has a section with regards to capital expenditures.
Okay, everybody clear on that at the table? Okay, great. Thank you for that explanation, Jen. Those in favor? And that is carried, none opposed. Okay, 13.2 is the bylaw for transfer payment fire protection grant. If I can get a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Counselor Ted Sheneman, second by Counselor Peter Kistemaker. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2106, being a bylaw to enter into a transfer payment agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne and His Majesty the King in the Right of Ontario, as represented by the enter the full legal title. What is this?
Oh, sorry, I ignore that part. I was taking it out of the agreement and for some reason that.
Skip that line.
Yeah.
Represented by the Minister of the Solicitor General, Office of the Fire Marshal, for the purpose of acquiring critical equipment and other needs, health and safety, minor infrastructure, and specialized tools to improve and enhance the level of fire protection service being provided. Be hereby read a first and second time, be considered read a third time, and finally passed. You're just testing me, eh? You're getting me back to having to read every emotion ahead of time.
I just used to have a lot more time to spend on going over my agendas.
Oh,
So now I do my best.
Oh, gosh. Okay, any questions on that? And I put that up to a vote. Those in favor? There we go. Yeah, just some full disclosure. I think for the first 4 years as mayor, I used to read every resolution out aloud because I was scared about messing up pronunciation and everything. I've since not done that. Apparently I have to go back to it. Oh, gosh. Okay. I think we should take a 10-minute break before we go into closed, and then we'll, or do you want to move into closed first, Jen, and then take the break? What do you prefer?
Whichever council wants.
Okay, let's move into closed, and then we'll just do the break, and that'll give you time to set everything up, right? Okay. Okay, so if I can get a mover and a seconder for the closed session, moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting at 7:54 p.m. be closed to the public in order to discuss advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations pursuant of section 239 2FK of the Municipal Act 2001. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. Okay, we're good to go. If I can get a mover and a seconder to open council. Moved by Councillor Peter Kissmaker, second by Councillor Ted Shannon. Be it resolved that the Council of Corporation of the Township of Hornepayne does hereby return to open council at, sorry, I shut my computer. 8:54 PM. Those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, business arising from the closed session. I'll hand it off to Deputy Mayor Drago Stefanik for item 6.1.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. 6.1 item, it's still ongoing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And also with item 6.2, this item is still ongoing as well.
Oh, sorry, that's 15.2 and 15.3 on the open.
Oh, sorry, and that's 15.2 and 15.3 on the open agenda. Sorry for that.
Yep.
And adjournment, if I can get a mover and a seconder for our confirmatory, please. Moved by Councillor Peter Kistemaker, second by Councillor Belinda Kistemaker. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2107 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at their regular meeting held on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025, be hereby read a first and second time, be considered read a third time, and finally passed. Those in favor? And that is carried. And to adjourn, moved by Councillor Drago Stefanik, second by Councillor Ted Sheneman. Be it resolved that council does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council held on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025 at 8:55 PM. Those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. Everyone have a great night.
You too. There we go.